The sun dipped low behind endless dunes, casting a golden blaze upon the sprawling palace of the Billionaire Sheikh. Its walls, adorned with elaborate mosaics and shimmering inlaid gold, stood as a monument to power and tradition amidst the harsh desert breath. Inside, silence lingered like a heavy veil, broken only by the faint rustle of silk against marble floors. In the grand hall, the Billionaire Sheikh stood rigid, his sharp gaze caught in a frozen moment. His perfectly tailored robe, embroidered with threads of pure gold, glittered under the chandelier's crystal light, but his eyes betrayed a tempest within. The weight of his opulent crown could not mask the hollow ache pressing deep into his chest. Across the room, she appeared, no longer the fragile woman he had once abandoned, but a phoenix risen from ashes. Her posture was proud, her eyes guarded pools of pain and resilience. The subtle scent of jasmine and smoky oud wrapped around her, mingling with the fragile tension that pulsed between them. But it was the small hand intertwined with hers that shattered the world he'd built. A boy, no more than 7, looked up with innocent eyes and called another man Dad. Shock blitzed through the Sheikh's veins, freezing his tongue and tumbling his control. The words fell like shards of glass, piercing every corner of his guarded soul. He stepped closer, every breath heavy with unsaid regret and doubt. Their eyes met for a fraction, a storm of resentment, longing, and unspoken memories flashing in the space between them. "Is he yours?" whispered a voice from deep inside, but the question died before it formed on his lips. She turned, her eyes narrowing slightly, a shield raised against the ghosts of their past. "My son doesn't need you," she said, voice steady but brittle. "He has a father who loves him." The silk curtains billowed faintly as a breeze stole through, carrying with it the scent of spices and secrets. Basheikh's fingers clenched, the fine threads slipping through his grasp like the years he'd lost. "How could you leave me like that?" His voice cracked, the commanding tone broken by raw vulnerability. She flinched, but didn't retreat. "I survived," she replied, the strength in her words a dagger and a promise. "Without you." His heart thundered, memories flashing like lightning, her silhouette against the sunrise, the emptiness as she vanished from his life. The silent nights, haunted by a name he never uttered. The boy tugged at her sleeve, voice light and curious. "Why doesn't he come, Mama?" Her smile faltered, brief and painful. The question hung in the air like an accusation the Sheikh couldn't escape. Emotions twisted within him, fierce guilt, aching desire, and the crushing realization that the life they built without him was a fortress he had no key to enter. Suddenly, a soft chime echoed from her phone. The message preview flashed. "There's something you need to know." His breath caught. A secret, long buried, waiting to unravel. The Sheikh's gaze locked onto hers, resolve igniting beneath regret. Whatever shadows lurked in that message, he would face them. For the boy, for her, for the redemption that seemed as distant as the desert. Stars. And within that electric silence, a fragile hope took root. And before the next secret of this emirate unfolds, make sure you're part of our caravan of stories. Many fates are yet to be written, and I don't want you to miss a single moment. Leave a like if the heart of this sheikh already intrigued you. Tell me in the comments, from which city are you following this saga? And what twist do you think is coming? Your passion for these dramas is what inspires us to continue. Thank you for being with us. The air in the grand hall thickened as the silence stretched between them, heavy with years lost and words unspoken. The boy's small hand tightened around the heroine's fingers, unaware of the storm simmering just a breath away. His innocent eyes darted between the two adults, sensing something unspoken, a tension too complex for a child, but palpable nonetheless. The billionaire sheikh's gaze dropped to the child, a cruel twist of fate carved in the softness of his son's face. His heart clenched, an unfamiliar ache pulling at the edges of his pride. He swallowed, battling the fierce desire to reach out and the bitter sting of abandonment that clung to him like desert dust. She held his gaze steadily, an unyielding fortress. "You left us," she said quietly, voice trembling with the weight of countless lonely nights. "You chose your pride over our family." His breath hitched. The echo of her words cut deeper than any sword. Every luxury, every shimmering jewel in his life felt hollow now, meaningless, compared to this raw wound laid bare before him. "Why now?" He expelled the question like a curse, struggling to keep his voice strong. "Why come back after all this time?" Her eyes flickered with a storm of emotions, resentment, sorrow, and a flicker of hope that dared not flame into fire. "Because he deserves to know who his father is," she said, her gaze unwavering. "Even if you don't." The boy tilted his head, curiosity mingled with confusion. "Will you stay, Baba?" His words were tentative, fragile as a desert bloom. The sheikh's breath caught. This tiny, hopeful question cut through his defenses more sharply than any accusation. He knelt down, drawing himself closer without breaking eye contact with the woman who had once been his everything. "I want to," he whispered, voice raw with regret, more than anything. But even as the promise hovered between them, the distant murmur from the palace corridors reminded them the desert kingdom they inhabited was no place for fragile dreams without fierce battles. A shadow moved past the ornate arches, one of his advisors, his sharp eyes flickering with news yet untold. The sense of unease crept into the room like a sudden sandstorm, catching at the edges of their fragile reunion. She glanced toward the doorway, the cold calculation returning to her features. "You never knew the truth," she said softly, her words meant for both of them now. "About why I left, about what I carried with me." The sheikh's stare darkened. The past, the secrets buried beneath the opulence, behind the walls of his palace, seemed to throb like a deep wound. "Tell me," he demanded, his voice barely above a whisper, but edged with desperate need. She hesitated, then nodded. "But you must promise. No more lies. No more silence." He extended his hand, the gesture fragile, but sincere. "I promise." The boy watched silently, his small frame pressed against her side, as if anchoring her in this moment of fragile hope and fear. She took a breath, then began. "That night, the night I vanished, you must understand, it wasn't just fear that drove me away. It was a secret, one that could destroy all of us if it ever came to light." His fingers tensed, The room seemed to close in around them, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and incense, the weight of unseen eyes watching their every move. "Tell me everything," he urged, voice breaking slightly as shadows of betrayal and longing twisted inside him. "Before it's too late." Her gaze dropped to the child, and then back to him, a silent pact forged in the fading light of the desert sunset. "There's a man," she said, voice trembling but resolute. "Not just any man. Someone with power, connections, someone dangerous. He knows about our son." The Sheikh's world stilled. His grip on her hand tightened, nails digging into silk and skin, desperate to hold on to this fragile thread of truth. "And that message," she whispered, lifting the phone again, "is from him." A shiver ran down the Sheikh's spine as the implications crashed over him like a sandstorm. Betrayal, danger, the threat of losing everything he barely dared to reclaim. His mind raced, calculating the stakes in shadows and secrets. His empire, his honor, the fragile family he longed to build. Everything hanging by a thread woven from fear and power. In that moment, the boy tugged at his mother's robe again. "Will he protect me, Mama?" She nodded, eyes burning with fierce determination. "He will, but not alone." The Sheikh stood abruptly, the fire in his gaze a tempest unleashed. "Then we face him, together." As his voice echoed against the gold-imbued walls, the palace seemed to listen, to hold its breath in anticipation of the battles to come. A distant door creaked open, and footsteps approached, heavy and deliberate. The Sheikh's attention snapped toward the sound, heart pounding in a rhythm that mirrored the desert's relentless pulse. He squared his shoulders, the weight of his past and the uncertain future converging in a single, powerful moment. The figure stepped into the light, a man whose presence chilled the very air, eyes alight with cruel intent. Behind that glance, the unspoken truth waited to explode, a secret not just from the past, but one that would rewrite the fate of the billionaire sheikh, the woman who defied him, and the child who carried the hopes of two worlds. And beneath the glittering chandeliers, in the shadow of the endless dunes, the fragile peace between them shattered like glass. The next chapter would bring fire, but for now, all that remained was the quiet before the storm. The man standing in the doorway was a living shadow, a predator cloaked in power and menace. His eyes, cold and calculating, pierced through the golden light that bathed the grand hall, as if daring anyone to challenge his presence. The air shifted, thick with tension, and even the chandeliers seemed to dim under the weight of his gaze. The billionaire sheikh's pulse thundered in his ears. Every fiber of his being screamed at him to protect the fragile family he was only just beginning to reclaim. Yet the memory of betrayal was a heavy chain, one he struggled to shrug off. The woman stiffened beside him, a silent statue of defiance. Her son clung to her like a lifeline, eyes wide and alert. The man's presence was a storm, threatening to shatter the fragile peace they dared to hold. "You should not have returned." The intruder's voice was low, deliberate, dripping with disdain. "This palace, this family, they are not yours to claim." The sheikh stepped forward, regal and unyielding, despite the turmoil inside. I am their protector. Whatever threats come, they will face me first. A cruel smile flickered on the intruder's lips. You forget your place, Sheikh. You walk into a web spun years ago, one that you abandoned. The words hung in the air, heavy with accusation and old wounds. The woman's fingers tightened instinctively around her son's small hand, a silent plea for strength. I left to protect her, the Sheikh said, voice rough with suppressed pain, to keep this secret from destroying all of us. The intruder's eyes hardened. But some secrets demand to be uncovered, no matter the cost. A sudden, sharp knock echoed from behind the intruder, a staccato rhythm breaking the silence like a warning drum. Two guards, their faces impassive, entered swiftly, flanking the man as if he were royalty himself. The dynamics shifted instantly. The woman's gaze flashed to the guards, calculating. The Sheikh's jaw clenched. There was more at stake than any of them had imagined. What do you want from us? The Sheikh demanded, all his authority in every word. The man took a step closer, a slow, deliberate advance. I come bearing a choice. His eyes flicked to the woman, a dark promise woven into his voice. Let the past remain buried, or lose everything you hold dear. The woman's chest rose and fell, the scent of jasmine blending with fear and fury. She stepped forward, voice steady, but filled with iron. You threaten a family that has survived because of sacrifices. You'll never understand. The intruder's smile curled into a sneer. Sacrifices born from lies. You have no idea what you carry within you, child. The Sheikh narrowed his eyes, stepping protectively in front of his son. Explain. The woman's gaze locked onto the intruders, and the air between them crackled with unspoken history. Tell him, she said softly, eyes burning with reluctant resolve. Tell him what you've kept hidden all these years. The man's expression darkened, but he nodded slowly. The child is not merely a product of a passionate night or broken love. He let the words sink in, slow and heavy. He carries a secret lineage, a bloodline intertwined with powers and enemies that could shake the very foundations of this emirate. The Sheikh felt the ground shift beneath him, his vision narrowing to the child's innocent face. A chill ran down his spine, for with this revelation came dangers far beyond palace intrigues or family grudges. Why now? The Sheikh demanded, voice low. Why reveal this now? Because your enemies are closer than you realize, hidden in plain sight, the intruder replied, eyes glittering with menace. And they will not hesitate to use your son as a pawn to destroy you. The woman's hand found the Sheikh's instinctively. For the first time in months, their fingers intertwined, fragile but defiantly united. A silence fell over the room, thick and suffocating. The boy blinked up at the three adults, sensing the storm but not knowing its shape or weight. The Sheikh's mind raced. Every luxury, every jewel in his empire seemed meaningless beside the threat that now hung over his son's head. His pride battled with his fear, but a fiery determination burned beneath it all. We will face this together, he stated, voice unwavering. No secret, no enemy will tear us apart again. The woman nodded, her gaze steady amidst the turmoil. But it's not just the enemies outside these walls. The truth will spark fires within this palace, deceptions so deep They could destroy the very throne you sit upon. Before the sheikh could respond, the intruder's phone buzzed sharply, its screen illuminating briefly like a blink of warning. He glanced at it, a message. His smile was a blade now, sharp and cold. "It begins tonight," he said, voice laced with dark certainty. "Prepare yourself. The web tightens, and no one is safe." Suddenly, the grand doors behind them. Intruder burst open. A figure cloaked in midnight black stepped forward, a woman whose presence chilled the room even further. Her eyes, fierce and unyielding, locked onto the sheikh with a knowing grin. "Your past has returned," she whispered, her voice like silk and steel. "And it's hungry." The sheikh's heart clenched, the weight of the world settling firmly on his shoulders. The opulence around him faded into shadows, and all that remained was the unrelenting truth that the secrets the desert kept were about to rise like a sandstorm, engulfing them all. And as the night deepened, the fragile threads holding their fragile family together trembled on the brink of shattering. The grand hall's atmosphere thickened with an electric charge as the midnight-cloaked woman stepped fully into the light. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, fixed squarely on the billionaire sheikh, sparkling with a cruel anticipation that sent a chill coursing through his veins. Even the opulent chandeliers above seemed to flicker, as if the palace itself shuddered under the weight of her presence. The sheikh's breath hitched, his perfectly poised demeanor masking the storm raging inside. Every muscle tensed, the invisible crown of his heritage pressing down with unrelenting force. By her side, the heroine remained statuesque, her fingers gripping her son's hand with fierce resolve, a silent barrier against the dark past that had followed them to his doorstep. The cloaked woman's voice sliced through the thick silence, smooth as silk, but hard as steel. "You thought your absence severed the ties? The past has only grown stronger, weaving a net that tightens around your legacy." A low growl escaped the sheikh's throat. "Speak plainly," he demanded. "Who are you to threaten the sanctuary I've built?" A faint, sinister smile played on the visitor's lips. "A guardian of truths you dared to bury. Your son's bloodline is not merely a symbol. It carries the weight of enemies you've yet to reckon with." The boy's wide eyes reflected the flicker of fear he barely understood. His small fingers tightened on his mother's robe, an instinctive plea for protection. The heroine's gaze shifted between the two powerful figures, her voice steady but laced with fire. "Enough with riddles. What do you want? Why now?" The woman's smile sharpened like a blade. "Because the hour of reckoning is upon you all. The secrets hidden beneath the palace floors are stirring, and those who crave your downfall have allies far closer than you imagine." The sheikh's jaw clenched, his mind racing to decipher meanings beyond these veiled threats. Memories of long-buried betrayals, whispered warnings lost in the corridors of time, haunted him now like relentless sandstorms. He stepped forward, shoulders squared, eyes blazing with unyielding authority. "If you come with threats, know this: I will dismantle every shadow that dares to darken my family's door." The woman's eyes glittered with cold amusement. "Very well, Sheikh, but beware. Not all battles are fought with swords or armies. Some are waged in silence, with poison whispered in trusted ears." Suddenly, the heavy doors behind the intruder thudded open. Two more figures emerged, cloaked, tall, their faces obscured but radiating menace. The palace's heart pulsed with tension. The flicker of torchlight, casting their elongated shadows against the marble floor. The heroine's grip on her son tightened further. "Who are they?" she demanded, voice low but fierce. The visitor's lips curled into a grim smile. "Your new adversaries." The Sheikh's gaze darted between the figures, calculating threats invisible but deadly. His promise to protect his fragile family burned brighter with every heartbeat. The subtle scent of jasmine mingled with the faint musk of danger, wrapping around the trio like an ominous cloak. A sudden, sharp sound shattered the charged silence. The shrill ring of a palace messenger's horn, echoing from distant corridors. The guard nearest the cloaked woman stiffened, his attention snapping away as if alerted to an unseen peril. The woman's eyes flicked once to the door, then back to the Sheikh with a newfound urgency. The web tightens. In hours, the desert sands will reveal what darkness lurks beneath. Without warning, the tallest cloaked figure stepped forward, removing his hood to reveal a face carved from ice. A man whose cold gaze met the Sheikh's with contemptuous recognition. "You have lived too long in ignorance," he said, voice like gravel slipping down stone. "The truth will shatter every illusion you've clung to." The Sheikh's hand moved instinctively to the hilt of a dagger concealed beneath his robe. "Speak your terms or leave." The man laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "No terms, only a reckoning. Your son is the key, and whoever controls him controls the fate of this emirate." The heroine's eyes narrowed, fire blazing as she pushed the boy gently behind her. "You'll have to go through us first." A smirk tugged at the icy man's lips. "I was hoping you'd say that." The tension tightened, a taut bowstring ready to snap. The walls of the palace seemed to echo with the possibility of bloodshed, betrayal, and sacrifice. The Sheikh's mind flickered to past mistakes, promise broken, hearts abandoned, silence that became a prison. Yet here, before the vast expanse of desert night, he felt the fierce spark of hope. Hope that this time the pain would forge a new path, not destruction. He looked down at his son, innocence trembling in those small eyes. Together, the Sheikh vowed, voice low but unbreakable, "We will face whatever darkness rises." The cloaked woman's expression twisted with a cruel satisfaction as shadows lengthened across the marble. But beneath her poised menace lay a secret more dangerous than any alliance forged in the shadows, but truth so profound it could unravel not just the Sheikh's empire, but the very identity of the son they all sought to protect. And as the desert night deepened into an ink-black abyss dotted with stars, a single message blinked to life upon a hidden screen. A name long thought dead, now calling from the depths of oblivion. The palace held its breath. The future, drenched in mystery and peril, awaited. And the true storm was just beginning. The icy man's gaze bore into the Billionaire Sheikh with the weight of all the desert's hidden storms. His smile was a jagged blade, promising pain, revelation, and upheaval. The palace's grand hall, once a sanctuary of gold and silence, now strained under the heavy breath of impending chaos. The Sheikh's fingers twitched at the hilt of his dagger, but he held his ground, every muscle coiled with the fierce pride of a man who had lost much and refused to lose what remained. His eyes flicked to the boy huddled behind the heroine, innocence trembling in fragile trust. "We face this together," the sheikh repeated, voice low but unwavering. "No threat will break this family." The mysterious woman's eyes sharpened, the shadow beneath the hood deepening. She stepped forward, her voice a silken challenge. "Family? You speak of unity as if it's a shield. But some wounds run too deep, Sheikh. You left us to die in silence, abandoned to dangers you chose to hide." The heroine's hand tightened around. Her son's fingers, a silent defiance burning in her eyes as she met the woman's glare. "We survived by our own strength, and we will not bow to threats cloaked in shadows." A bitter laugh escaped the icy man. "You underestimate how many enemies lurk behind palace walls. Allies wearing faces you trust, turning daggers in the night. Your son's bloodline is a prize far greater than you realize." The boy peeked out cautiously, the light of questions in his young eyes. "Mama, who are they?" She knelt down, voice soft but firm. "People who want to tear us apart, but we're stronger than they think." The grand hall's golden chandeliers trembled, as if sensing the fragile alliance faltering. Outside, the desert winds whispered secrets no walls could contain. Suddenly a sharp clatter echoed. A tray of crystal glasses tumbling to the marble floor, somewhere just beyond the heavy double doors. Every head turned, breaths catching in cords of tension. From the shadows emerged a figure, tall and broad-shouldered, draped in the emblem of the palace guard. His eyes locked onto the sinister visitors, then flicked towards the sheikh, silently signaling urgency. The sheikh's expression hardened. This is no mere confrontation. His voice was steel tempered by resolve. Enemies have made their move. We must act swiftly. The mysterious woman's lips curled. "You live in a web, and tonight the spiders close in. The boy's secret is not just a curse. It is a key, one that opens doors to powers that could crumble empires." She stepped past the heroine, bravely meeting the sheikh's challenging gaze. "Those doors were sealed by your absence. You cannot walk away from this." The sheikh inhaled deeply, the scent of oud and jasmine filling his senses with memories. Of laughter lost, of promises broken in the silent nights where only desert stars bore witness. His eyes never left the boy, whose small hand now reached trembling toward his father's knee, seeking something he could not name, but instinctively desired. Protection, love, presence. A sudden, heavy silence fell. Time seemed to pause beneath the gilded arches. Then the icy man spoke again, voice low and venomous. "There is more you do not know." He tapped an ornate ring on his finger, the gesture subtle but charged. "Your son is not just a child. He is heir to a secret lineage wrapped in danger. In power few dare touch." The heroine's breath caught. Her gaze darted to the sheikh, searching for something, hope or a warning, buried beneath the marble calm. The sheikh closed his eyes for a moment, crushing the surge of guilt and fear. When he opened them, His voice was a vow broken and reforged. Whatever shadows lurk, whatever enemies strike, I will not let them claim my son. A cruel smile flickered on the mysterious woman's lips. We shall see, Sheikh. For in the next moon, the desert sands will reveal truths far darker than any of us can imagine. Suddenly, the heavy doors burst open once more. Figures clad in black armor streamed in, elite guards, loyal to no one but to power itself, faces masked, weapons glinting under the chandelier light. The heroine stepped forward, shielding the boy with all the fury of a lioness. We stand here, together. No one will harm him. The Sheikh's jaw clenched fiercely as he positioned himself before the family, ready to fight not just for a kingdom, but for the fragile dream of a future long denied. From the deepest corner of the hall, a slow, deliberate clap echoed. Mocking, chilling, deliberate. A slender silhouette materialized from the shadows. A woman, her beauty cold, her smile twisted. Welcome home, Sheikh. Her voice was the whisper of danger, the promise of ruin. I've waited a long time for this moment. Every breath in the room caught, hearts pounding beneath the weight of unspoken sins. The boy looked up, innocent eyes wide, hearing a name whispered. Like a curse, mother, enemy, shadow, waiting for the nightmare that night would soon unfold. Outside, the desert wind howled, carrying with it the promise of storms yet to come. And as the palace doors slammed shut behind them, sealing the fate of the billionaire sheikh and his fractured family, the true battle for love, legacy, and survival was just beginning. The grandeur of the palace seemed to dissolve beneath the lingering weight of unspoken threats. The midnight cloak of the woman cast shadows that danced along the intricate mosaics. Each step she took, striking like a challenge thrown at the heart of the billionaire sheikh's carefully rebuilt world. He tightened his jaw, the fine gold embroidery on his robe crinkling as he moved forward with measured authority. His eyes never left the woman, nor the jagged coldness residing within her gaze. Beside him, the heroine held their son close, a silent rebellion against every danger emerging from the darkness. You have no right to claim what you abandoned. The sheikh's voice cut sharp, but beneath it trembled the raw edge of years filled with regret and desperate hope. The woman laughed softly, venom lacing the sound. Right? The right belongs to those who survive the deserts of lies and betrayal. Your absence paved the road for what's about to come. A gust stirred the heavy silk curtains, carrying with it the scent of jasmine mixed with distant spices. A reminder of both home and war. The boy's small hand gripped his mother's fingers tighter, his wide eyes reflecting the tension no child should bear. The heroine's voice was steady yet fierce, a flame kindled through years of endurance. We survived. We built a life while you hid behind pride and shadows. The sheikh's chest tightened. The pain in her words struck deeper than any blade ever could. I left to protect you both, from truths you weren't ready to bear, he confessed, each syllable falling like a stone in the silence. The woman's eyes flickered, and for a moment, the veneer of threats cracked to reveal a haunted vulnerability. Then tell him the truth now. No more games, no more secrets. The room seemed to hold its breath as the sheik knelt, lowering himself to meet the boy's gaze. The child's innocent question came hesitantly. "Papa, will the bad men come for us?" The sheik swallowed, the weight of responsibility pressing heavier than ever. "I will protect you, always." A sudden sharp click echoed, a message illuminated on the intruder's phone, its glow cutting sharply through the dim light. She glanced at it, then back at the trio, her smile dark and unreadable. "It begins tonight," she said, voice dripping with cold promise. "Your son is the key to everything." The heroine's eyes narrowed to slits, fire igniting within. "We stand united. No shadow, no threat will tear this family apart." The Sheikh's gaze swept the grand hall, catching the glint of weapons concealed beneath the heavy robes of the cloaked figures flanking the intruder. His fingers brushed the dagger at his side, a silent vow to fight for the fragile life unfolding before him. With measured steps, the cloaked woman moved. Closer. Power, loyalty, betrayal. These are threads woven into the fabric of this emirate. Your son carries blood that could unravel them all. The boy, almost too young to understand, blinked up at his father and mother, the flicker of bewildered trust fragile in his gaze. His small hand reached for his mother's robe, pulling gently for reassurance. "Tell us, what secret?" the sheikh demanded, voice a hardened blend of command and desperation. The woman paused, then spoke like a blade cutting through silk. "Your son's bloodline is entwined with ancient alliances and enemies. Not all scars you bear are visible, and tonight the shadows will claim their due." A tremor passed through the palace, the very air seeming to thicken, as if the walls themselves bore witness to this burgeoning storm. Then, heroine squared her shoulders, her voice carrying the strength of 1,000 battles fought alone. "Then let the storm come. We will stand firm. Together." The sheikh rose, resolve igniting in his eyes, like desert fires at dusk. "I will not abandon this family again. Whatever darkness waits, we will face it head-on." The heavy doors behind the intruder swung open once more. From the shadows emerged figures clad in black armor, their faces concealed beneath helmets that shed no light on their intentions, only the promise of deadly silence. One stepped forward, a man whose face bore the coldness of glacial night, eyes sharp with recognition and disdain. He met the sheikh's gaze without flinching. "You have lived too long in ignorance," the man said, voice like gravel brushing stone. "The heritage your son holds is not just a blessing, it is a battlefield." The sheikh's hand instinctively moved to the dagger, the cold metal, a fragile comfort against encroaching chaos. "Explain yourself, or leave." A cruel smile cracked the icy man's lips. "Our quarrel is not one of words, but of legacies. Your son will decide the future of this emirate, if he lives to claim it." The boy whimpered softly, nestled closer to his mother, who pressed a protective kiss to his forehead. "You will not touch him," she vowed, eyes blazing, a lioness ready to fight for her cub. The icy man's smile deepened. "I was hoping you'd say that." The palace seemed to hold its breath as the seconds stretched taut with menace. Outside, the desert wind howled like a wounded beast, echoing the turmoil within these gilded walls. For the first time since his return, the billionaire sheikh felt the full weight of his failures and the magnitude of the future he had to protect. Fragile and fierce, like the boy's trembling hand now seeking his own. "Together we will endure," the sheikh declared, voice hard as onyx, yet warm with unyielding love. The cloaked woman's eyes gleamed, a cruel satisfaction buried beneath her poised menace. "The past is not done with you, Sheikh, and the night will unveil every secret buried deep beneath these sands." Suddenly, a faint vibration rippled through the room, the subtle hum of a hidden device awakening to a single, haunting message. A name once forgotten, now resurrected from the depths. The sheikh's heart thundered as the fragile threads binding his family began to fray. Outside, the desert night deepened, swallowing the palace in darkness as the true storm whispered its deadly arrival. And somewhere in the silence, a single whispered word broke free: betrayal. The icy man's voice lingered like a dark echo in the grand hall, his words cutting through the thick air with a promise of ruin. The shadow of his presence stretched across the gilded floors, a stark contrast to the fragile golden light that fought to hold its place against night's slow advance. The billionaire sheikh's heart pounded fiercely, the weight of every lost moment pressing on him with the force of a desert storm. He took a measured step forward, the gleam of his dagger concealed beneath his flowing robe, a silent vow to defend what remained of his fractured world. His gaze locked onto the strangers, unwavering and commanding. "Speak your truth, no more riddles." The cloaked man smiled, a thin, cruel curl of lips that barely masked the venom beneath. "The boy you see is more than a child. He is a key to an ancient legacy, one that rivals anything this emirate has ever known. Powers and enemies intertwine in his bloodline, forces that will tear your world apart if you cannot protect him." The sheikh's jaw clenched, muscles taut beneath the golden threads of his robe. His eyes flickered to the boy, whose small fingers clutched at his mother's dress, innocence trembling in the fragile grip of fate. The weight of his promise flooded every breath. "I will not let any shadow claim him." Beside him, the heroine's gaze blazed with unyielding strength. Her voice was low but resolute. "Together we will shield him. No darkness will seep through these walls without us standing in its way." A cold laugh escaped the intruder. "Brave words, but bravery is no armor against the truth you've long buried. Secrets are the sharpest knives, and your family is pierced deeper than you realize." The princess of pain and resilience stood her ground, every line of her face carved by years of survival. Her son's wide eyes flickered between the men, a child caught amidst a tempest far beyond his years. Suddenly, the air shifted as the heavy palace doors slammed open behind the intruder. In walked two towering figures, cloaked in black, their features concealed beneath polished helmets that reflected the marble's cold gleam. They moved with deadly precision, shadows made flesh, loyal to no one but power itself. The heroine stepped forward instinctively, placing herself between the threat and her son. "Who are they?" she demanded, voice trembling, not from fear, but from the fierce fire of a mother, ready to burn the world for her child. The cloaked woman beside the icy man's side answered, with a voice smooth and sharp. The new guardians of fate, enforcers of destinies long foretold. Their arrival signals the end of your ignorance. The Sheikh's gaze hardened, the complex weave of palace politics, bloodline wars, and betrayals unraveling before him. His shoulders squared as the heavy mantle of responsibility pressed down. You tread a dangerous path, stepping into my family's sanctum, with threats dressed in shadow. He said, voice like tempered steel, I will dismantle every scheme, face every foe. The leader among the black-armored guards stepped forward, removing his helmet to reveal eyes colder than the desert night. You have lived sheltered by lies. Your son's blood is both a blessing and a curse, a beacon for those who would use it to disrupt the balance. The boy whimpered softly, ducking behind his mother. She drew him close, kissing the top of his head. Her resolve a shield forged by love and suffering. The icy man's voice softened only enough to send a chill down every spine. The hour has come where hidden truths must surface. Alliances once forged in silence will splinter, and the throne you guard will shake. Suddenly, a sharp vibration cut through the tension. A phone screen lighting up with an unread message, its glow cold and urgent. The woman with the cloak glanced at it, lips curving into a shadow of a smile, filled with dark anticipation. This is no mere warning, she said, eyes glinting as if she held the fate of kingdoms in her palms. Tonight, the desert sands will swallow secrets long held in the silence of your palace walls, and the child, your son, will be the fulcrum upon which all will turn. The heroine's fingers intertwined with the Sheikh's, a silent pact against the gathering storm. Her eyes held his, fierce and unyielding, a fortress built on years of pain, yet filled with hope. The Sheikh drew a slow breath, his mind racing as plans, betrayals, and old wounds collided. Golden chandeliers above seemed to flicker, casting kaleidoscopic shadows that danced like ghosts of the past. His voice, when he spoke, was unbreakable, a beacon in the encroaching darkness. No secret, no shadow, no danger will tear this family apart again. We will fight, and we will endure. The black-armored figures shifted, their presence a looming threat that drained the warmth from the room. Their leader's gaze lingered on the boy, as though measuring the weight of the destiny hidden behind those wide, innocent eyes. Then, as if summoned from the abyss itself, the grand doors behind the intruder burst open once more. A figure stepped forward, a woman draped in silk, as dark as midnight's embrace, her beauty as lethal as the desert scorpion's sting. Her eyes locked onto the Sheikh's with a venomous delight, a wicked smile playing upon her lips. Welcome home, Sheikh. A collective breath caught in the hall. The fragile web of reunion now trembled on the edge of catastrophe. The boy's gaze flicked from face to face, wide and uncomprehending. The whispered name she spoke was a curse suspended in the night. The opulence around them faded, the walls seeming to close in as the first tendrils of betrayal began to unravel the threads of their fragile sanctuary. And beneath the glittering chandeliers, with the desert night stretching endlessly beyond, the true storm whispered its deadly arrival, promising secrets that would burn deeper than any sword. The battle for love, legacy, and survival had only just begun. The cold silence in the grand hall fractured as the midnight-cloaked woman stepped closer, her presence a merciless shadow that swallowed the golden light. The billionaire sheikh, regal, yet battered by years of absence and forgotten promises, faced her without flinching. His heart raced, the weight of the fragile family before him pressing like the relentless desert sun, unforgiving and unyielding. Behind him, the heroine's grip on their son tightened, her eyes fierce, demanding protection for the child who carried secrets far heavier than his small shoulders could bear. The boy's innocent gaze flickered between the adults, sensing the storm, but unable to grasp its full fury. "You think your return mends what was broken?" the woman spat, voice laced with venom and years of unanswered questions. "This palace, this family, built on illusions you abandoned." The sheikh's jaw clenched, his fingers tightening invisibly around the dagger concealed beneath his robe. His voice, steady but layered with raw regret, pierced the tension. "I left to shield you both from shadows you were never meant to see." Her laugh was cruel, disbelief twisting her lips. "Shield or abandon? You walked away, leaving us vulnerable in a world that knows no mercy." The heroine's eyes, bright with unshed tears and unyielding will, met the sheikh's. "We survived without you. We fought in silence while you hid behind pride and fear." His chest tightened, each word a blade to his wounded soul. "I did what was necessary, what I thought was best." A slow nod from the cloaked woman sent a ripple through the room, as if sealing a pact only they understood. "Then listen well. The boy you now stand for isn't just your flesh and blood. He carries a lineage marked by power and peril. Enemies hidden in the very walls of this palace breathe in the same air." The sheikh's gaze darted to his son, whose small hand trembled but clung to his mother's silk with desperate trust. The scent of jasmine and oud wove through the heated air, mingling with the tension and lost years. "Tell me everything," he demanded, voice thick with urgency. "No more shadows, no more lies." The heroine inhaled sharply, her strength woven from years of solitude and sacrifice. "There was a man," she began, voice low but fierce, "a force following us through the silence, a reckoning I hoped you'd never face." Before the woman could speak further, the heavy palace doors slammed open, revealing two figures clad in black armor, their faces hidden beneath ominous helmets. The room seemed to shrink beneath their looming silhouettes, the glint of hidden weapons reflecting the cold marble. "Guardians of a destiny you never claimed," the cloaked woman hissed. "They serve no one but the forces that seek to unravel you." The boy whimpered softly, pressing against his mother, seeking the invisible armor of their united front. The sheikh's voice softened, a vow wrapped in unbreakable steel. "We face this storm as one. No threat, no secret, no betrayal will break what remains." A flicker of a cruel smile crossed the icy man's lips as he stepped forward, revealing eyes sharp like shards of glass. "Long have you lived in ignorance, Sheikh. Your son's blood is a prize coveted by shadows, older than your kingdom." The heroine raised her chin defiantly. He is protected by us. A tense silence enveloped the grand hall, every breath held captive beneath the flickering chandeliers, until the ominous stillness was shattered by the soft beep of a message arriving on the intruder's hidden device. She glanced at it, lips curving into a dark prophecy. It begins tonight. The desert will awaken, and with it, the truths you buried deep will seek the light. The Sheikh's gaze swept over the room, finally resting on his son's trembling fingers, then rising to the woman beside him, whose resilience had become his anchor. Together, he said quietly, we rise from the ashes of betrayal. Together, we endure. Weight settled in the air, thick and suffocating, as the palace doors creaked, open yet again. From the shadows stepped a woman draped in silk as dark as the midnight dunes. Her eyes burned with cruel recognition, a smile both haunting and venomous curving her lips. "Welcome home, Sheikh," she breathed, her voice a silken dagger that tore through the fragile peace. The boy blinked up at the new arrival, his small voice barely a whisper. "Who is she, Mama?" The heroine's fingers tightened around his, her voice steady, though her heart raced. "A shadow from the past you never wanted to face." The air grew colder, the heavy curtain of betrayal descending like an unforgiving sandstorm, erasing the golden warmth from the chandelier's glow. And in that electric moment, the Sheikh's mind fractured between the past's haunting grip and the uncertain threat forged in the present. His renewed vow to protect, to love, to rebuild the fragile family in the eye of an inevitable storm stood firm. But the crack in their sanctuary had already begun. A dark whisper, soft and relentless, drifted through the desert night beyond the palace walls. The true enemy was no longer hidden, and the silent countdown to destruction had begun. The tension in the grand hall had reached a breaking point. But now, in the quiet aftermath of the storm, something deeper took hold. The looming threats, the webs of secrets, the shadows that once seemed unstoppable, all stood on the precipice of reckoning. In the center of it all, the billionaire sheikh, the woman who had endured so much, and the innocent boy who symbolized their fragile hope, faced the dawn of a new beginning. The dark figure that had interrupted their reunion now stood subdued, the weight of the sheikh's unwavering resolve pressing down like the desert sun. The glint of steel at his side was no longer just a weapon. It was a shield forged in redemption and love. He stepped forward, his voice steady and commanding, yet softer than before. "We will no longer be prisoners of the past," he declared. "The secrets that almost tore us apart will now bind us tighter because we face them together." The heroine's eyes softened as she looked up, the fierce fire that had protected her now melting into the warmth of trust. She took a small step closer, offering her hand again, not in surrender, but in partnership. "And our son," she said gently, "will grow knowing he is cherished, not a pawn in someone else's game." The boy's eyes brightened at their words, the childlike spark returning to his innocent gaze. He reached out tentatively, wrapping his small fingers around the sheikh's in a gesture full of unspoken forgiveness and newfound belonging. Outside, the desert sky had turned from dusky gold to the soft blush of morning, the first rays of sunlight casting a warm glow over the palace's shimmering walls. The vast expanse of dunes stretched endlessly, but within the palace, a garden bloomed anew, a symbol that even in the harshest places, life and love find a way. A quiet murmur stirred among the silent courtiers and guards witnessing the transformation. The harsh voices of doubt were replaced by whispered hopes. The empire was witnessing the birth of a family forged through pain, repentance, and the unyielding power of choice. The icy threats, the veiled enemies, had retreated for now, defeated not by swords alone, but by the strength of a bond reconciled. With a tender smile, the Sheikh knelt beside his son. "I promise you this. No shadow will fall over your future while I breathe." The boy beamed, the light returning fully to his eyes as he nestled safely between the two strongest hearts he had ever known. The heroine's lips curved into a smile, genuine and free of hesitation. "We've broken the chains of silence," she said softly, "and from this day forward, our story will be one of courage, truth, and unbreakable love." As the palace doors opened wide, the desert wind carried away the last whispers of betrayal, replacing them with something entirely new, the sound of hope, the promise of peace. The Sheikh stood tall, his regal bearing softened now by humility, yet steeled by the knowledge that the wars he had fought were not just for riches or power, but for the family standing before him. Together, they stepped into the sunlight that spilled over the marble floors, bathing them in gold, a light that no darkness could ever extinguish. With the past laid bare and healed, the future unfolded like the endless horizon, vast and full of possibilities. In the arms of love that had never truly faded, the billionaire Sheikh found not just redemption, but the home he had long sought. And the woman who had once risen alone from ashes now stood beside him, no longer a shadow, but a queen, fierce, radiant, and unbreakable. Their son laughed softly, a sound that seemed to fill every corner of the palace with life, innocence, and the purest hope. The desert waves beyond whispered promises of calm after every storm. And beneath the boundless sky, a family once fractured was now whole. The Sheikh looked at them, his world reformed by what he had almost lost, and with a heart finally at peace, he whispered, "This is just the beginning." The sun rose higher, painting the emirate in hues of gold and promise, sealing the end of one journey and the radiant start of another.